You are now entering the Thick Goddess Energy Morning Show. We in the building. High priestess in the building, didn't let my fears kill me. Transmuted my pain in that cleanse in the rain. Found out I was working and I conquered my demons. I accepted my purpose and the goddess I became.
I think towards the end, he was just like, as long as my kids were happy. My mom and her family, especially one of my great uncles, he's like, I refuse to accept that you are marrying a black man or with a black man. Matter of fact, he was like, I will even pay you to marry someone of your own kind.
So both of you would be okay with your grandsons or your children marrying white? Or just
I don't. I do not care.
Or whatever.
I do not care as long as they treat them right and they're happy. Most of all, treat them right. But I have no I have no standards when it comes to my kids. Like, even with the way my father pushed me to further myself in education and better myself. Like, when it comes to my kids, I just want them to be happy. Whatever path they choose, I'm gonna support them. I'm not gonna be that hard parent because it was drilled in me that you're gonna go to school, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that, you're gonna make something of yourself. All that pressure, it's not gonna do anything but kind of like bring them down to a certain, because it made me feel like sometimes I wasn't enough. And I mean, even like dating outside my race, it's just like, why would you say that? There are plenty of good people out here in this world where they're just there's killers and molesters and etc. in the Asian community, in the black community and white community. Like, you just need to trust my judgment. I mean, like, my great uncle literally told me, I will pay you to marry someone of your own kind. And basically, the biggest thing was having someone to understand the struggles that we've been through. I mean, if you look at the struggles of what ethnic group has been through it all, it's the African American population.
I think everyone has their struggles,
they had their struggles, but I mean, everybody has their struggles, but as far as when it comes to adversity, is the Hispanic and African American. The Asians didn't have to go through so much. They did go through slavery later on, but not as bad as the Hispanics and the African Americans. So it's just like, they just wanted someone to understand our struggle. And I was just like, no one's going to truly understand your struggle if you don't educate them and teach them about it. Because, here we are, we're refugees from a different country. We were exiled from our original country, could never go back. So it's just, I mean, no one will truly understand. Like, no one will understand the slavery movement. No one would understand, like the Hispanics and the Indians, how their land was taken away from them, during colonization era. So no one would truly understand unless you educate them and you enlighten them. I mean, it's two different capacities. So that's like, I still don't get why they're just like, you should date someone of your own kind. Because till this day, like, my mom was just like, after my divorce, well, my separation and soon to be divorced, she's like, see, I told you, you should have been, with your own kind. And I'm just like, what does it matter?
Well,
really, what does it matter?
I push, yes, I do. I'm not gonna lie. I push on my children to not date white. I don't care what you date, where you go. Please don't marry a white lady or a white man. It's horrible. It is horrible.
From how you see white.
It is. I just, it's how I've, what the impression has been left on me. And not only that, but seeing in general how my biracial friends, like when it comes to white, how their families treat the biracial children or the ability to accept the biracial children. Um, Even seeing white friends that have had biracial children, um, and not little things like not knowing how to comb their hair or how to do their hair
Mm.
or how to teach them, like if they're, whether sometimes, I've had a couple of them who have become single parents, and so they don't know how to teach them about their culture or about their, how do you, if you don't have that, how do you teach them about their race, their culture? But it's just really hard. And I so push my children to please date and marry anything other
And
than white.
I've
And
actually
it's
seen that
hard.
on the other
And that's
side.
why Brooklyn out, huh?
I've actually seen that on the other side where I've seen Black women not know how to comb a mixed child's hair,
Hmm.
and the hair looks all crazy. But for me, I went through a time of not wanting my daughters to date or have children with someone who was darker or African, not just African American, because we're Latin, and Latin, we can be Afro Latin, because of my fears of what they would go through, the fears of what they would go through, the shit that we went through. And it's crazy because when I was a kid, the way that my mom was, I did shit on purpose. Like, it was like, my first daughter has a very African name, you know. I made sure to give her a very African name. And it was just like, here in your face, mom, like, you don't want me to date Black. Well, here you go. You don't want a mix, even though we were. It was like, you don't want this. Well, here you go. And I named her LaQuisha. That's her name. But when it came down to it, after going through life and just seeing everything, when it got to my kids, it's like, that there's a difference. Unfortunately, there's a big fucking difference. And I watched my daughter go through so much shit being this mixed child with this beautiful hair and being picked on, not really picked on because she was taller. So a lot of people didn't pick on her, but she was singled out. She was singled out in a way because she had fucking pretty hair. And it was just like, fuck, like it gets hard as a parent to watch this year after year, and your child be in this place of just, so no, I didn't want them to marry and have darker children because of what are they going to fucking go through, how is their life going to be, and their life is going to be easier the lighter they are, and it's horrible that is the fucking reality of it.
I guess I never looked at it that way. I look at it more from the inside. Um, Christmas, Thanksgivings, weddings, anything like that. I just don't feel. I mean, I think it's getting better now, but I
Right.
always looked at my sons, especially my sons, not so much my daughters, but my sons, as I don't feel like a white family would be able to accept them fully. And I don't feel like they could understand the struggles that my children have.
Yeah,
I don't feel like they could
I get
understand
that. I've
that
just
part.
seen on both ends where you think because someone's African American that they understand, that they get it. But what I've noticed is, no, you have a lot of people on both ends that don't fucking get
Mm-hmm.
this shit at all, that are
Yeah.
very ignorant to life in period. There's a lot of people who just don't get it. And I have had, the privilege to be on both ends of seeing how this shit goes. And then now, looking at the kids, I will tell you that I just want someone to respect them. I
Mm-hmm.
want someone to respect them and to love them, and to be someone who has something going for them, whatever that race may be. But unfortunately, like what my daughter, her baby daddy, that was a piece of shit at the end of the day. Unfortunately, and he happens to be African American, which just made my conclusion true. Because remember, in life, you will always prove yourself right, right? If you say this is what it is, you're going to prove yourself fucking right. Not to say that every African American man is a piece of shit, because it's definitely not the case.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we've gone through some repetition in my world where I don't have I can't name positive African American male role models at all. I don't have that. I can't even pull that out of my ass, I can't. Unfortunately, that is where we kind of stem from. Even in my line of my family, the males are not prominent at all,
Yeah.
so it just sucks. But now I've gotten to a point to where I've had to work through my shit and my color and my inner, all this shit that's gone on from a child, from my mother, my father, my community of where I was raised. I've had to work through this in my own DNA because there was a lot of hate embedded in me as a kid, and then me being the white girl of the block, I got picked on a lot. I had to constantly
Mm-hmm.
prove my fucking self. You know what I mean? When you go through life of having to constantly prove yourself, constantly be this person that you're not, constantly fight for a place in a society that doesn't want you. And it's crazy because that's exactly how blacks get treated, but you will turn around and treat other people the same fucking way. So on me, I've kind of seen this other side to things that have made me more aware of, damn, like look at how we treat multiracial people. We fucking treat them, a lot of people treat them the same, if not worse, because they're mixed. You have no place, which, you know, I know you have your saying, when you're thinking about it and you kind of the that pre kind of notion of what a white person is, right? That's the same thing people have on blacks, right? That's the same thing
Mm-hmm.
people have on Hispanics. It's looking at them and saying, you're this race, this is how you act. You don't have the understanding, you don't have the background. But I have met some really loving white people in my lifetime. I have met some really down to earth
I don't think they're
white
not
people.
loving. I just don't think they can, for the life of them, 100% understand.
I don't
And
think anybody can.
especially when it comes to um, family in general. Like you can't say that everybody in their family is just open and accepting. Because I know my family isn't, and I've seen other people's family who
Right.
wants to, love their little niece and nephew, and then it's like, oh, well, I have black nieces and nephews, but I don't think anyone fully understands, and I don't feel like with my boys especially, I don't feel like anyone is going to be able to understand certain things about them. It's very hard for me to feel like they would, and I think that's important, especially when it comes to um, their children. Even like I would much rather have my kids have it rough for the tone of their skin or the texture of their hair versus have it rough at home with somebody who struggles to understand the adversities that they have to go through.
Mm. I think it's rough no matter. You know what I mean? I think,
Yeah.
I think everyone has their own kind of shit that they have to go through. And I don't think you'll ever truly understand someone unless you've been there. You know what I mean? Unless you're there
Mm,
and gone through it or you've seen it. I don't think you can truly understand. That's where
mm-hmm.
the empathy comes in, to empathize with the situation or a person. But I don't really feel like you ever can be at that point of truly getting it, understanding, especially
Yeah.
if you were raised around it, and especially if you don't have that background. um, it is going to be hard to understand. It is going to be hard to, and I don't want to say accept, because my family is we have so many different colors. We're all types of colors. We're fucking rainbow. Um, and one of the things that we're very open, but like I said, and I talk about it, my mom was very prejudiced. We lived in a black neighborhood, but she had some very prejudiced shit that would come out of her mouth. She had some there was a time I remember putting braids in my hair. And I remember her telling me if I wanted you black, I would have been with a black man. And this is a lady who, who's mixed. She has
Mm-hmm.
that African, but because she's Cuban, and that segregation in Cuba, she was very prejudiced. But this is a lady who came from growing up in the 50s where it was very segregated. It was very, and even though she wasn't poor, My mom wasn't poor. My mom was raised in Upper Manhattan. You know what I mean? And she went to a fucking Irish Catholic school, but that interaction with the Irish and that kind of barrier is it made her very prejudiced in life. It made her very prejudiced about skin tone, you know, and where in her mind it was having lighter kids was better. And I can tell you, me and my brother have had opportunities because of it. Let me tell you, we have. There's no doubt in that, where we have definitely had opportunities and ran with it based on our skin color and the fact that we have a Spanish last name, you know, where we could separate ourselves and take that title and run with it. So, you know, I don't think we'll ever get to that point to be like, I can truly understand, because I can't understand. You know, I could never truly understand my daughter's father as a black male. There were a lot of things that I couldn't get, I didn't understand. I just didn't, you know, and no
How do
matter
you
how I tried.
how do you feel about people who do choose to procreate in their own race due to keeping that bloodline?
I think a lot of people do it out of the fear of, oh my God, there's,
Hmm.
you know, just like, you know, the whites who say, oh my God, you know, like white people are gonna be diminished or some shit. Or, you know, I think if you do it out of fear, that's the problem. You're doing it based
Yeah.
on fear of the your race will no longer exist. You'll become extinct. One of the things I like to always point out is that people didn't weren't just created yesterday. So everyone's bloodline is pretty mixed by now in 2021. There's no one that's really 100% any fucking thing. You know, and the more people do DNA results, you know, the ancestry, they kind of see like, oh shit, I'm fucking 20% this shit, and you got like
Hmm.
13 things on the list. I think the idea that we're pure anything is fucking retarded to me. I will be honest. I think it's very ignorant to sit and be and say, because our people say we like my people come from, you know, my mom's side from Cuba, but they're definitely not indigenous Cubans. We see that in the
But do
blood.
you think it's wrong to try and maintain that as much as possible?
I don't think it's wrong. I think you got to ask yourself, what is your, you know,
Why?
how intentions? What's your
Yeah,
intentions
I
behind
understand.
it? Right? If you're just doing what you do to make sure that your children understand the culture that they come from, their background, damn, influence that, do that, instill
Yeah,
those
there are other
values
ways.
and qualities. But if you're doing it with the basis of fear that somehow your race is going to be annihilated or for some reason they're going to be extinct, I think that's where you have to back up and take a look of where is that coming from? Because honestly, we're not 100% anything. You know, most of us, even the people who think, I used to think I was only three races, and then come to find out there's this slew of other nationalities that are behind that created me and made me down the line. And so I think we have to rethink how we're walking around. And if we're instilling this, okay, I'm going to instill that we're this. I'm going to why? What is the purpose?
Hmm.
But
I totally
we
agree with that.
we breed animals off of fear that they're going to go extinct.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think I think at some point you got to
So,
ask yourself those whys behind it. You know what I mean?
well, I
Like,
think the biggest thing for me is number one, the native culture is almost extinct.
oh,
Right. It's huge. It's almost gone. Like literally, I don't even know what the percentage of actual people who can be considered native at this point. Not saying that you can't do ancestor DNA and find out that you have native in you,
right.
but to like actually consider, I want to say it's 6% in the United States is actually Native American, which is sad given that this is their land. This is where they're from.
Right.
So when people on that side of my family believe that you should stay with your own race out of fear of being extinct, I 110% get what they're saying,
Right.
because we are the closest people to going bye bye real quick, real
I
soon.
I
I can
think I
understand
don't
that
think it's
too.
the I don't think it's the it's not that Indians are extinct. It's that the way that it happened. Now, personally, I don't fucking agree with the agreement and the treaty and all that bullshit from back in the day where you have to be a certain percent to be considered Native
Mm-hmm.
American, right? To keep your land, you have to be your bloodline has to be certain percent. So I understand in the Native American culture why their procreation to stay it's to keep their fucking land. That's a whole different
Huge,
survival
huge.
thing that's going on, right? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
to
I
me
can
it's
understand.
right something. To me that's it's huge because we don't get, and I'm not enough to be enrolled. My mom is, my grandmother was. Um, so I'm not enough. But given, I think they said 2 or 3 generations after me, have we not, if we don't procreate or, with the natives, um, on my generation, on my line, there will be no more.
Right.
Yes, you'll probably have some that have a couple 2%, 10%, but I mean,
Right.
that's that one person who's always like, I'm 164th Cherokee or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's like no,
Right. Right.
uh, like get away here from me. But for it's huge because we don't get to keep our land. We don't get to keep our money. We don't get to keep our any kind of benefits that we've been left with through the government. But I also feel that way about white people, and I know people hate that about the KKK or whoever else. But I'm like, if that's their thing, and they want to keep their race and they want to keep it strong and they want to do their thing, I just don't have a problem with it. Now, for
No,
me,
I
it
don't
sucks
think it's
because
a
I'm
problem.
biracial, so I don't even have that choice. Like, I can kind of, like, we can go any fucking where. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Hmm.
we don't have
I
that
don't think
choice
it's a
anymore.
problem.
But
I definitely don't think it's a problem, and I don't think anyone should be judged if they want to strengthen their race. I just feel like
Yeah,
no one should do it out of fear. Now, like I just said, with the Native Americans, of course, it's different because there's actually the law says you have to be a certain percent,
yeah,
you have to have a
percent.
certain population. That is totally
yeah,
different. Nobody else is struggling with that in their country. Everyone else can go back to a country of their origin and it's still there. It's kind of like
yeah.
it's very different. So I don't think it's bad, but I just feel like that unfortunately the fear based of this is what we have to do. I think as people, you just have that decision, unfortunately. And I do think more people change
Yeah,
that because that the Native American, that whole situation is fucked up. But is it ever going to change?
no.
Probably not.
And
You
I
know?
can understand that because outside of Vietnam, like my population, my ethnic population is less than a million, like less than a million.
Mm-hmm.
And pre-Vietnam War, we were like almost at a million, but a little bit over a million, so to speak. And basically, because we are underneath the Vietnamese government, the communist government, basically they're trying to simulate us into the culture. So if
Mm-hmm.
people ask me what my ethnicity was, they were like, "What the fuck is that?" And then you trying to
Yeah.
explain it to them, and then they're just like, well, you're Vietnamese. I'm like, no, it's the
Oh,
indigenous tribe of Vietnam. It's like totally different, like the Native Americans here. And it's just like, sometimes I have cousins, I have, distant cousins, I have family members that will actually leave the States and go back to Vietnam and marry, someone of
mm-hmm.
our native tribe just so that, you know, the race can flourish. But like, Divine said, when you do it out of fear, you have to examine, why am I really doing this? Is it, yeah, the population is diminishing, but would it still flourish? So you've got to weigh out those pros and cons of it all. Um, so for me, it's just like, another reason why I didn't choose to date, as someone African American. That's who, I clicked with. That's who I was mostly around. That's who I, like, who at the time, like, you know basically got along with and who was predominantly around me. Not just saying that, I didn't choose somebody of my own race to, be with or program. There wasn't enough of us, there wasn't enough of us here for me to, be with someone of my own heritage, so to speak. So it's just like really examining why, what are your motives behind it? Have if I've been back home in Vietnam, then maybe so.
Right.
Most the chances of me being with my own kind, most likely 90%. But here in the States, it's just like it's slim to none because everybody just about it, I'm either related to or grew up with, etc. I mean, I did date someone of my ethnicity, but it just didn't work out.
Mhm.
And when you have slim pickings, your choices are limited. So I mean, that's where I was drawn to even my ex, and it's like everybody I dated, because that's who I was sort of surrounded around, were predominantly
Mhm.
African American. Everybody I dated was African American. you
Mm-hmm.
know there weren't enough Asians in my communities for me to date people, either Asian heritage. Like between me and my siblings, my sister and I both married African Americans. My brother's the only one that ended up with an Asian wife. So, I mean, and he dated people of all colors of the rainbow. Like, if you were to look at his black book, it was like a pack of Skittles, basically. That's the way because
Right.
we had not a prejudice bone in our body, but had the scenarios changed and the demographics be different, maybe so. Maybe so. I mean, because I'm all about cultural preservation, preserving my heritage and passing on my legacy, my father's legacy, et cetera, et cetera. But there are other ways to do that, even with being multicultural or multiracial. Because my kids know that they're half Asian, and that half is indigenous to this area. If they ever wanted to go back home, they know they have family that is centralized in one area versus their dad's side of the family that is all across the globe. So there's other ways to teach them about culture and not it interfering with what's going on, so to speak. Um, a good example is my dad's organization is one of them. Where they actually they teach the language, and they teach English with the language. So be it. So I mean, I I'm all about preserving your heritage, but there are other modalities also to do it. Not knocking anybody down, saying that you stick with your race. You do what's best for you. Like
Right.
I'm doing what's best for me, but there's other ways. There's definitely other ways. Because I mean, even teaching my kids, like there's something that was also a struggle with my ex and his family. It's just like them trying to get over the culture, like them trying to understand the culture. Because back home, like we used to, carry our babies on our backs. You got a lot
Mm-hmm.
of work done, and you like, in the slings, and you were still able to cook and do daily work. And I remember one time my ex mother-in-law was accusing my mom of trying to suffocate my middle child, and I'm just like, she had
Right.
three
Right.
of us. This is the way she carried us. We all turned out okay. So,
Yeah, I think that
yeah.
goes with any culture. I think it's hard for anyone to
Right.
understand anybody's culture, and I think that's where a lot of the issues come with even like black people not wanting their children to even step outside of their race, even though we know that the struggle is real, right? But
Hmm.
it's being able to understand anybody's culture is definitely hard. And yes, you can be open to learning it, you can be open
Right.
to accepting it, but to actually live it and know it, it is
Right.
difficult for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can read all the books and have all the friends you want to, but to actually
Right.
understand when you don't have that reality in your own world is hugely difficult. Hugely difficult.
I think you have to also coming into having a diverse or relationship or multiracial or combining races. I think you have to come in, of course, with an open mind and respect for
Hmm.
your partner's race, period. I think you have to, have that ability to not try to then enforce what you think because the way you were raised. Because when you come together with another race, two very different
Mm-hmm.
upbringings, two very different ways of thinking, even down to even the food, where, me and my daughter's father, that was one of our biggest things of me not being able to prepare the food the way he wanted it. And it would be very frustrating to do so. It would just be like, I'm kind of over this, like this, okay, I'm trying, and I think you have to be, there are going to be cultural differences. But I feel like
Mm-hmm.
if you can get past all of that when it comes to the racing of the children, embrace all the races, not like, oh, this one's superior, so we're going to go here, and we're
Yeah.
just going to teach that. I think I have seen very few, but I have seen it where you have people, and it doesn't matter if they're black or white, where they have done that, where even they have tried to learn about their own race. Because we can say African American, but how many African Americans actually teach African heritage to the children?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
True.
Well, that's a whole
probably
nother
not,
subject.
huh?
That's a whole nother subject.
Right, right. That's a whole other show.
True.
But that's the show for today. Just kind of putting it out there and bringing some awareness to our multiracial children. There are more and more of them in this world now, and the struggle is real, especially for myself coming up as a multiracial child. It was not easy for me watching my daughters go through the same thing, and the kiddos of trying to find their way in a society that doesn't really accept you. And I think we know about blacks, we know about whites, we know about Hispanics, kind of the separation between all of those, or Asians, because that they do kind of separate and stick to their own kind of, but we also know, unfortunately, the multiracial children have a hard time trying to figure out who's accepting them and who's taking them in, or who's looking at them and giving them that, okay, you're one of us. There's always, no matter who they're around, there's always this level of, you're not really one of us, kind of energy. So
Mm-hmm.
be mindful of that, you guys. And not just, I'm not against anyone having multiracial children, or if you want to stick to your own race, I'm not against any of that. I think you should do what's your heart. Just don't do it out of fear, of that your race is going to be annihilated. I feel like our intentions are everything. If you're creating children with fear, what kind of energy are you putting in the DNA with that? So I do feel like that's, just something you have to kind of look at your own life and your own background and make those decisions, and try to just be, if you are someone who has multiracial children coming into your life, look at it differently. Try to open up your understanding and get to know people, instead of having the judgment of the shitty world that we live in and putting that judgment on everybody else, because it's not fair to those kids coming up. They don't know, kids are kids, and then they have to learn how to be, and they need all the love and support in this world that they possibly can, right?
Right.
Hey, Elise. All right, we're going to get into the horoscope for today as December 17th. Ooh, you grew up in Mississippi. I'm sure the struggle is real there. Right. I think love sometimes has no color lines. And I think if you fall in love with someone outside your race, follow your heart. If you fall in love with someone with your race, follow. You guys just, if someone falls in love with someone who's not their race, try to be understanding and not give them shit for it. Or cause like, nah, don't bring that white woman home.
Brooklyn, Brooklyn swears. We were having problems with the baby mom, so Malachi said he was going to have another baby. And he said he had a black girlfriend and a white girlfriend. And I was in the kitchen and they were in the dining room. And he goes, "So what kind of baby do y'all want?" And Rome goes, "You better have the black one, because Mama ain't gonna have the one."
No.
See, my
Oh,
my ex
God.
mother-in-law is like that. My ex mother-in-law is like that. My ex mother-in-law used to always tell my ex husband and her son currently, because he's 22, right? Don't bring no white girl home to me. Don't bring no white girl home to
Oh,
me.
oh,
And so my kids hear this, so it's just like Granny said, don't bring no white person home. I'm
I'm gonna
like,
tell you it's hard. I'm gonna tell you, as the one who was looked at as the white girl, my daughter's father's mom didn't even get out of her car. She wouldn't even step foot in my home. Like that is hurtful when you know that you're a loving person who's coming into a relationship open hearted. You love this person. You're not looking at their
mhm,
black or their white. You just
yeah,
love this person and you're having a fucking child with this person. And so it was very hurtful for this black woman not to even get out of her fucking car to come in. You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? Like having your grandkid and you don't even come into the fucking hospital, to come in and see the birth of your grandchild. That shit is harsh and it's hard and it's hurtful. She would take my daughter's father out to places and not invite me after being with this man for fucking years. You know what I mean? Like that shit is hard. It is hurtful for a person who really is not coming in here with the bullshit, is just coming in here to love this person. So that's why I say keep that open mind and just try to not just automatically look at that person like, nope, fuck that, you're white, get the fuck out of here, because it is hard and it's hurtful. Like my daughter doesn't have her dad's family. They've never been around. They've never made an effort. There's been no calls from
Yeah.
his side of the family at all.
mhm,
I would never like disown. It's just my preference. I think
Right, right,
Brooklyn's gonna be the one that challenges that because she just loves to challenge me on anything that she possibly can.
right,
So
right.
Brooklyn will probably be the one that says a white kid, an Asian kid, uh, an Indian kid. She gonna have everything but her own race, right? She just gonna have
Right.
kids from all over. My daughter, who is gay, has her mindset on adopting, and so she's like, I'll adopt whatever is gonna take me, right?
Right, right,
Go for it, whatever.
right.
But Brooklyn's gonna be my challenge, and I would never not accept it. I just want my kids to understand that the struggle that they're adding to themselves is gonna be difficult. Um,
Right, right.
Especially like here in Texas, right? Because I'm not saying everybody is racist down here. They're not. But there's a lot of white people down here who would prefer to see their children with the white race. And
Of course.
that's just what it is. That's their preference, just like my preference would be different. So down here, I do warn my older son, like, you're in Texas now. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be careful of where you're stepping. They'll say hi, they'll wave, they'll be cordial, but do they really want?
Right.
Is that really?
yeah,
So just know that if you choose to do that, you do run your chances of adding an extra struggle to your plate on
It is.
both
yeah,
ends.
It is.
Because it's I'm gonna be just as reserved about the white people as they're gonna be as of us in general. So just understand that. But I would never like sit in the car. I would never do anything like that. I wouldn't.
No. I,
If
I
it
do feel
happened, it
I
happened.
do feel like this is why we're bringing it to the table. I do feel people have to understand that walking into a multiracial, if you're going to bring two races together, you're going to walk into not maybe the very open and loving kind of, this is our family, let's blend our families now.
Hmm.
No, it might not be like that. It might be the opposite. Like I said, unfortunately, in my experience, I have not seen that. And unfortunately, even my grandsons, their father's side is not in their life. No calls, no
Yeah,
nothing. No one
I would
checks on.
never.
And that, unfortunately, that's the side. So for my daughter, my grandsons, all they know is my side of the family. That's it. It's very unfortunate. It's very sad. And you do run the risk of someone not liking you just based on your skin color. Should that
Hmm.
be your determination to have a relationship with someone? No, but just remember, you might not get the family blend that you want. And that's a decision you have to
mhm,
make. Your child
Hmm.
might not have a grandmother because of
Yeah.
the choice that you make of love. That's just the harsh reality of being multiracial or coming into trying to blend races, because in 2021, it is still very racist and still very
yep,
segregated amongst
mhm.
races.
Yeah.
It is.
I think a few more
I mean,
generations. down, it'll be different. But I think
It
it's
was
going to take at least 2 to 3 more generations before people are
probably so.
more open to it being like the new norm kind of
Yeah.
thing. Because
I
right now
mean,
it's still kind of fresh.
yeah,
It
I
is.
mean, I was a child having a child. I probably as an adult would have thought of some of this other stuff more thoroughly before having a child, especially because of what I've experienced. Maybe I was supposed to experience to bring it to the table,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm a very family oriented person. So me, family is everything. So when I experience someone of like that, of someone's mother not liking me, not because you don't like me, just based on my fucking skin color, that was like a turning point for me.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone now, I definitely would not want to be with anyone who I did not have a relationship with their mother, if I didn't have a relationship with their family, because I'm very family oriented, and I
Family. Yeah.
would never want a relationship with someone that we're going to be separated family. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
don't
no,
want
I
that.
totally agree. Because I mean, like when me and my ex were together, like we had no problems with spending holidays, vice versa. But since we separated, that's when we went our
Right.
separate ways. But if I can't be around you if you're not gonna accept me for me and my
Mm-hmm.
culture, vice versa, or even the food. Sometimes even like trying to integrate the food and have this
Right.
fusion of
That's
food
huge.
is it's
Huge.
it's huge. It's hard,
Huge.
like
Huge.
with my family because we have blacks, whites, etc. It's easy to have this fusion. On my ex's side, it's harder because I'm me and this other white woman is the only, well, Hispanic, now he married a Hispanic woman, are the only minority. So trying to bring in this fusion food, sometimes they'll just look at like, what's this? It's very difficult.
Yeah.
And I
Real
mean, I
shit.
remember when there was a point in time where I was not with my ex. This is when we were dating, and I met my twin, and my twin was like, wanting to pursue me. And I had this preconception because, I was brainwashed then, like, how does it look like for me to have a black child and bring it into an Asian, relationship? Because he's Asian, but
We can't hear you.
Not yet. She must have got a call or something.
Can't
Huh? No.
hear you.
No.
Nope. Something happened with your sound.
You're still on mute.
You're on mute.
She probably has to go back up and come in. Oh, you're here
I
now.
had a phone call. Okay. So I mean,
Okay.
I had this like pre notion, like, how does it look like for me to be in a relationship with someone that is not the same, race as
Mm-hmm.
my kid? So I had to get out of that because like even now where I'm in trying to get out here and mingle, so to speak, just having fun. I'm not really looking for anything serious. I don't have a preference because someone was just like, "What's your type?" I'm like, "Really? I don't have a type. I just want them,
Right.
like, I just want them to treat me good. Like, I just don't
Right.
want to come out of the bullshit I just came out of and go into more
Yeah.
bullshit. No, I just want whoever it is to treat me good. And then on top of that, not just me, but my kids, because I come with a package. So it's just like, yeah, I had that preconception. And I said, now looking back, I remember everything that I went through with my oldest about, accepting me as his mom. I remember when I got pregnant with my middle child, and I'm praying to God, I'm like, I just want someone to look like me. Even an ounce of me, like,
Yeah.
not, and
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I
Right.
hate to say that, but everything I
It's
went
rough.
through with my oldest, it really like traumatized me. Like even till this day,
Right.
I'm just like, even with my daughter, like I remember even in daycare, them having to pick her up, same thing. Like if this Asian woman comes to pick up such and such, it's her mom, and I'm just like,
Right.
really?
Well, I like I said, my mom cooked as a Cuban, right? My mom cooked Latin food, but poor Latin food. We ate poor Latin food, right? So when I was trying to learn how to cook and stuff, here goes this person who's raised off of like black beans and rice, you know what I mean? And shit like that, who's over here trying to fucking learn how to fry chicken and fucking make collard greens and shit like that. That was something that I was not raised on. My mom did not cook collard greens. She did not fucking
Yeah.
fry chicken like that. She didn't make certain things. So it was very hard to try to become this person in adapt the foods and things like that because you want to do it, but it's very hard. It is very hard to become like, how the fuck do I learn how to do this, or how do I learn how to bring this culture that I have no fucking idea about. There was just certain things that I didn't know that my mom didn't cook or didn't do. So it was like really a struggle for me and my daughter's father to just come together in some ways. It was a struggle. It was like I was not getting a lot of shit, especially when it came to the food. It was like, I give up. Fuck this. I give up. You cook it. You want fried chicken, you fucking cook it.
I mean, I get that because I mean, like you, my mom never taught me, so I had to get up with my ex-husband's aunt, and she had to teach me how to cook soul food, right?
Right,
So, like when it comes to my kids' palate, it all differs. Like they don't have the same palate. They don't.
right, right,
So they eat soul food one day, and like last night we were having ramen and fried
right,
chicken and something else.
right. I mean, I can cook now, but I just could not like that trying to, because you will, if you're dating, you will, they want, even when I got older, like dating certain kind of Hispanic men wanted certain dishes, and they'd ask you questions, and it's like, yeah, I don't cook like that. I don't cook the traditional fucking meals anyway. I'm not a chef anyway. You're not getting a chef. We're gonna order out. I'm not cooking shit anyway. But I think that's the biggest thing of trying to be or bring certain things that people are used to from their nationality. That's what they grew up on. That's what's and that's one of the hard things. One of the hard
Yeah,
things, you guys.
it's definitely one of the hard things is trying to fuse in the food. Definitely.
Yeah,
But
because you're
my
used
kids
to it.
couldn't like survive off of noodles and rice and chicken.
Right. Because even like macaroni and cheese, very different the way we made macaroni and cheese. And then like you go into like the Southern cook, macaroni and cheese. It's just
Mm,
like, what is this? This is different. Where my dad called the macaroni elbows. I was used to my
uh-huh.
dad referring to them as elbows, not macaroni, so very
Yeah.
different in just even terminology of food.